Guys, it's time for our reading lesson today. We're going to pick up where we left off with Hey Little Ant. So, in our story so far, the boy and the ant have been talking back and forth, and we got into the page where the boy said, "But my mom says the ants are rude. They carry off our picnic food. They steal our chips and breadcrumbs too. It's good if I squish you, a crook like you." And so that was the boy's idea of what the ant looked like carrying away the picnic food. And you had to draw that. So I want you to look at your picture and see if it looks like what he envisioned. He has the little ant with a little robber mask on. I told you that's what I thought of when I read this part, and I do whenever I hear the word crook or thief, that's what I think of. The ant says, "Hey, I'm not a crook, kid. Read my lips. Sometimes ants need crumbs and chips. One little chip can feed my town, so please don't make your shoe come down." And so he's pleading his case. He's trying to get the boy to not squish him. "But all my friends squish ants each day. Squishing ants is a game we play. They're looking at me now. They're listening too. They all say I should squish you." There's the boy's friends. They're all telling him to squish. "I can see you're big and strong. Decide for yourself what's right and what's wrong. If you were me and I were you, what would you want me to do?" So the ant is changing places with the boy, and he said, "You think about it. If I was big, would you want me to squish you? Should the ant get squished? Should the ant go free? It's up to the kid, not up to me. We'll leave the kid with his raised up shoe. What do you think the kid should do?" That's the end of our story right there. So it leaves it open-ended. It doesn't give us a story finish. It tells us, what do we think the ant should do? What do you think the kid should do to the ant? Should he squish him? Should he let him go? There's lots of different questions there. Today I want us to connect with our story. We're going to talk about the word squish, what squish means, and we're going to connect to our story. We're going to compare the boy and the ant, and we're going to talk about how they're different and how they're alike. So I'm going to turn my camera just a little bit. We're going to do squish first. So I'm going to use a red marker so you can see. So in your reading notebooks, you're going to go to a page, your new fresh clean page, and you're going to write the word squish. 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 You're going to write that at the top of your book. Now, squish has a couple of different meanings. For us today, the biggest meaning is to make flat, because the boy was trying to squish the ant. He's trying to make him flat. So we're going to write, and what I did was I skipped 2 lines and wrote a line, skipped 2 lines, wrote a line, skipped 2 lines, wrote a line, and then I left some space for you to draw a picture down here. We're going to write the definition of the word squish. So we're going to say to, T-O, remember T is a tall word. It also gives you room to write if you skip 2 lines and do the lines, because it gives you plenty of room to write. To, that's a sight word, make. Make. What do you hear first? M. I'm going to make a space. M. Make. Remember that to say its name, you have to have that sneaky E on the end, that magic E, to make A say his name. In the K, we don't make the line go all the way to the top, because that would be an uppercase K. We don't want to make it uppercase in the middle of our word. You always use lowercase unless it begins the word, unless it's the beginning of a sentence or a name or a word that's very important. To make flat. Flat. F, that's right, F. And I hear a blend right there. Full, F-L, L, full, at. We know a sight word. At. could write it as one whole word right there. A-T. To make flat. Now, for us today, that's what we're going to use for our definition because squish has a couple other meanings. It can mean a wet sound, like squish when you walk on wet mud or wet ground. You can hear squishes as you go. Or it can mean to crowd together, like everybody squishes in together. Like we talk about bunching up like grapes in the classroom when we sit close to read our book. That's squishing together. But today we were talking about it to make flat because the boy was wanting to flatten the ant because he wanted to squish him and he was trying to figure out if that was a good thing or a bad thing. So now we're going to talk about a connection we have with our story. A connection is what good readers do. Readers think about experiences they've had or from other books they've read or from anything else in their life that they can connect back to this book. So I want you to think about, have you ever squished an ant before? Have you ever squished a bug? It doesn't have to be an ant. This is Hey Little Ant, but have you ever squished a bug before? Have you ever thought about it? You know, some bugs, even though Miss Thompson does not like spiders, and they're not really insects, they're arachnids, but I don't like spiders. They do serve a purpose. There's some spiders that are actually helpful to our environment. So a lot of bugs can be helpful. They can be annoying, but they can be helpful. So I'm going to turn my board around because we are going to do some comparing today. We are getting to be some really, really smart people, and so we're going to try to do some comparing today. So on your next page, after the word squish, I want you to draw, and I want you to see what I'm doing. We're going to draw two big circles. But what you're going to do is you're going to have a part of the circle that overlaps right here in the middle. I'm actually going to make mine a little bit bigger so that we have a bigger space there. There we go. So you have a big space right there in the middle to write in. So you have two circles, and you're making sure they overlap. Okay, we want them to overlap. So in one circle, we're going to write above it, we're going to write kid. We're going to write the kid, K-I-D, kid. And then on the other circle, we're going to write ant. Ant, A-N-T, ant. And then in the middle, we're going to write both, B-O-T-H, both. So if you have to turn your notebook sideways, that's okay. We're going to talk about the kid first. So you have kid, ant, both. We're comparing our characters in our story. So if you look here for kid, tell me some things that you think of about the kid. Well, let's look back through our book. Compared to the ant, the kid was big. The kid was big. All right. So he was big. He was much bigger than the ant. So we're thinking about how he is. And I'm going to I'm looking at something real quick. Sorry, guys. So the kid is also, he's a human. He is human. He is not an insect, is he? He's big and he's a human. So we can add that to our chart. Now, for the ant, I'm going to say he's little. Would you agree with that? He's little. If the kid's big, the ant is little. So if the kid's big, the ant is little. And the ant is an insect. He's an insect. He's not human. He's an insect. We did let him, the writer, the author did make him talk. He gave him a human skill, but he's still an insect. So the kid's big and he's human. The ant's little and he's an insect. So now let's think about what they have. That was what's different. That's the contrast. That's what's different. Now I want to think about the comparing. What is the same? Well, if we look back through our book, the boy and the ant had family. They both had a family. They both had a family. They both lived in a home. They both had homes. Now, the boy's home and the ant's home were very different, but they both had homes. And ants live in a colony together. They build it up real tall. Humans live in a house or an apartment or a trailer. It doesn't matter where they live. They just live in a house. So families live, the ant and the kid both have families. They had homes and they had friends. Remember the ant called them nest mates. Remember he said his nest mates would miss him if he wasn't there to help out. And the boy talked about his friends. Nest mates is another term as like would be a friendly term for ants. Like in an ant colony, they may not have like family units the way we talk about it, but they have friends, nest mates that they work with. But they are a big family. The ants are. So the kid is big and he's human. That's how he's different. That's contrast. The ant is little and he's an insect. But comparing them together, they both have families, they both have homes, and they both have friends. So there's a lot of similarities between the kid and the ant. And I want you to think about it. What do you think kids should do? You don't have to write about it. I just want you to think about it. Should he squish the ant or should he let him go? That's the big question. The author has a certain purpose, and we're going to talk about that tomorrow with why they wrote the book. But I want you to think about it today. When next time you're around like a bug or something to squish, I want you to think about, should you squish it? Is there a good reason to squish it? Now, like when, for example, I'm allergic to wasps. So I don't like for wasps to live at my house because I can get really sick if I get bitten by a wasp. So there are times when, that makes sense that you don't want them to bite you. So you would not let them just be flying around, landing on you and all that stuff. But an ant just walking by, like we were observing yesterday, we have a little ant trail out in our driveway and they were carrying, it looked like little seeds almost from one end to the other. It was really neat watching the whole thing. And we didn't want to mess that up because they weren't bothering us. They weren't really building a mound. They were just going to their house. So it's kind of like, well, let them be where they are. So you have to make that decision for yourself. Sometimes, you don't want to get bitten by a bug, but at the same time, if they're not bothering you, just leave them alone. Because there's a reason that we have all these insects and bugs, and there's certain like spiders and bugs that eat mosquitoes, and mosquitoes serve a purpose too, but they really do bother Miss Thompson when she's outside. So I try not to kill the different insects and bugs that are mosquito eaters because they can kind of keep the population down for us. That's what they naturally do. That's what they eat. So there's lots of good reasons to have different bugs and arachnids and insects all around us. So I want you to think about that today. Think about your connection with the story. We're like the kid, and then you have the ant. There's the contrast, the difference, and then the comparison of what they have in common, family, homes, and friends. I'll see you guys in a few minutes for writing. Bye.